All right, we're gonna go in here.
Even as I'm stepping through these doors,
En la misma celda.
I don't fully grasp what we're about to walk into. Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past. It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist.
There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe themselves. And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from.
This is a rare look inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as Seicout.
And he says there's always somebody standing here in front of the cells. And then if you look up, there's another corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light.
The prison sits like an isolated fortress, nestled in mountainous terrain, about an hour-and-a-half drive from the capital. Even with government officials on board with us, we're stopped a mile out.
Oh, okay. He's gonna inspect bags now too. Okay, we're clear to get back in.
Only to hit another checkpoint. Approaching the main gate, our cell signals vanish.
They want to do a full search on us before we enter.
Once cleared, we tour the vast campus.
It's been equated to 7 football stadiums. It's almost multiple prisons within the prison. You can see off to the distance, there's 3 different rings as they describe. The far end, you have one that's 9 meters high of concrete, and then above that, 3 meters of electrified fencing.
At 15,000 volts.
15,000 volts.
More than 1,000 security personnel, guards, police, and military are stationed on site. Inmates are assigned to one of 8 sectors.
The director tells me the inmates, once they're inside one of these sectors, they never leave. Everything is done within, including doctors, as well as legal visits or court hearings.
Each sector holds more than 24 large cells.
Roughly 80 inmates per cell, but it can fluctuate.
Most bear the markings of the gangs that held this nation hostage for decades, committing brutal acts of violence.
You gotta kill people, you gotta rob, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
You have to do those things.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
We meet 41-year-old Marvin Vasquez, shackled and heavily guarded.
What gang were you part of?
MS-13.
And do you have any gang affiliations?
Yeah, I'm tattooed up.
What is this?
Crazy criminal. Say crazy criminals. Yeah, I made this clique in 2011.
You made the clique?
Yeah.
You were a gang leader?
Yeah.
What is it like to live here?
It's probably not a hotel 5-star, but they give you the 3 times the food. They give you some programs. You go to do exercise.
Ejercicio nosotros lo podemos repetir siempre.
Some church religion programs too.
But that's limited to just 30 minutes a day. The other 23 and a half hours, they're kept inside and locked up.
For inmates who get violent with other prisoners or guards,
we're going to close the door. I just want to get a sense of... Wow.
solitary confinement awaits.
The only light you get is through this hole. They can be in here for 15 days, potentially. All right, I'm ready to get out. The director brought up that a lot of folks will raise concerns from a human rights perspective and an abuse of human rights, that he's calm hearing that because he sees it day to day, the process they go through to maintain, as he sees it, proper punishment.
While you're cut off from society here, whispers of life on the outside make their way in.
I've heard about it, that it's a new El Salvador, it looks different.
Pero la realidad es que hemos liberado a millones.
That new El Salvador has emerged under President Nayib Bukele, who took office in 2019 and declared a controversial state of emergency more than 2 years ago. It sparked an aggressive crackdown on crime. We see that firsthand as some 2,500 police and soldiers deploy into one neighborhood.
It's going to go on through the night for however long it takes for them to root out any suspected criminal elements.
Critics argue Bukele's strategy has given him far-reaching power to suppress dissent and silence any opposition. Late last week, as the U.S. State Department lowered its travel advisory for El Salvador, citing a significant reduction in crime, it also warned that Bukele's emergency measures allow authorities to arrest anyone suspected of gang activity and suspends constitutional rights. And yet most we meet seem unfazed by the added show of force.
I asked him, I said, how do you feel with all these soldiers? I mean, there's a couple of dozen just even right outside his door. And he said, no, I feel safe.
El Salvador now has one of the world's highest incarceration rates. The most hardened criminals brought to Seikot, where inside, a life sentence awaits.
We did bad things, we pay it the rough way, doing time.
And yet for many on the outside, the prison, now a symbol of newfound freedom. The new El Salvador, as they see it. David, Kولفر, CNN, El Salvador.